Welcome back to the channel today, guys. We are here with another most realistic settings for your dynasty. These are gameplay settings, so they're not going to be sim settings. They're also going to be on Heisman. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. The first place you're going to go to is going to be the home screen, and move over here to the right-hand side in the top right-hand corner to the settings tab. Hit in the game settings section and go from there. This is going to be a skill level of Heisman. You'll have to change this in your dynasty every time you set it up, but Heisman is what these are going to be on. If you need an All-American slider set, go check on Twitter or YouTube or Operation Sports. They all have those around there. We're going to be playing on 12-minute quarters with play clock on and play acceleration to 16 seconds. I feel like this is giving the most realistic stats, and that's kind of what we're looking for. It may not have the same amount of plays, because if that's the case, the games will just take too long, but it's still quick enough to give you that good stats look across the league and also just give you enough time to play and kind of feel like you're in the game. So set that to 16 seconds. We're going to get into wear and tear in a minute, but we're going to wait until we get into the dynasty, since you'll have to set that up each and every time you go into your dynasty. So on this homepage setting, go ahead and head over to your player skill, and this will help you each and every time you load up your dynasty, because you'll be able to save these down the road. So first off the top, we're going to do quarterback accuracy of 45. I found this is better than nuking it all the way down to 40. I see some people do. I like 45 with a combination of 42 on wide receiver catching. I think that it's better to have the wide receivers drop the ball a ton rather than your quarterback just completely miss the wide receivers over and over again. Pass blocking is still a little bit bad, but it is a ton better than last year. So we're just only going to turn this up to 52. It helps you a lot, and it helps you not miss as many blocks. Just that slight increase does help a ton. And then run blocking, we're going to leave on default. Ball security is going to be 38. So you're going to see a lot more fumbles, especially when players try to extend the play and try to go for that first down or that touchdown. You'll see them fumble the ball more. You'll see some more fumbles from the quarterback when he's in the throwing motion, which is more true to life and realistic. Moving down to pass defense for your skills, you're going to put this up to 62. This helps out a ton. Your defense just be more reactive and kind of get to the ball quicker, especially on those runs as well. There's been a lot of times playing through the first couple weeks is just see running backs just completely get to that, 10 to 15 yards before my DBs ever react. So this helps a little bit there. Interceptions, we're going to turn down to 40. With the most recent update that came out a couple days ago, they had some issues with the interceptions. They've increased them for some reason. So turning this to 40 will bring us back to more of that jump ball, batted ball type of thing we were seeing the first couple days in the dynasties. But for some reason, I don't know why EA chose to do it, but they have increased that. So turn that to 40. Pass coverage, we're going to be at 55. This is an issue each and every year. I just don't think that our players are good enough and quick enough and cover players well. So we're going to turn it to 55. Again, that helps a little bit. That's a 10% increase. So you'll see that help you down the line as well. And then tackling, we're going to be at 55 as well, just to give you a little bit of a boost when you're trying to tackle running backs. I feel like running backs a lot of time will break that first tackle about 60% of the time, which is just not realistic. So turning it up to 55 should help you. Field goal power, we're going to turn down a little bit to 48. Field goal accuracy, we're going to turn down to 42, because this will make it more of a give and take. You may not want to kick that long field goal because you're not going to have a ton of accuracy there. Punt power, we're going to turn up to 60. And this is just to build in a little bit of extra yardage per drive. It takes about 5 to 10 yardage per drive. So if you punt, 6 times a game, that's 60 extra yards you'll have worked in there on average. So it'll just help those stats throughout the season. Punt accuracy 45, that's not really that important. And the kickoff power, we're going to leave at 50. And then moving on to the CPU, we're going to do 40 for the quarterback accuracy. I've just seen too many times where the CPU will light me up. They'll be like 23 for 24. This helps that. They're still going to have a high clip just because that's how the CPU is coded by EA, but turning it to 40 gets them lower into the 70s threshold, which is semi-realistic for some of the top guys. But once you get down to some of their lower guys, it may be a little high. But we don't want to turn it down too much because you don't want quarterbacks just completely missing their target all the time. Pass blocking for the CPU, we're also going to turn this to 52. It helps them out a little bit and just prevents, getting 6 or 7 or 8 sacks per game. Wide receiver catching 38. Similar rationale to what we were seeing before with ours. Run blocking, we turn this to 40. I have had too many instances where the CPU, the FCS Southeast, the 48 overall rated team running for 250 yards. I mean, that's just not realistic. They're probably going to run for a ton of yards because they run in every possession, but I shouldn't have to sell out to stop the run and blitz 6, 7 guys just to stop them from getting 5 yards per carry. It was absolutely insane. So it turned this down to 40, and I'm seeing good results over the last few playthroughs I've done. Ball security, similar rationale. We're going to turn that down to 38. Reaction time for the CPU, we're going to have it 46. This helps a lot with them just not being all over you and just not getting there before you even make a decision to pass the ball. There's been too many times where a cornerback or a linebacker will be guarding the flat and they just up and turn away and run towards the middle of the field, and they'll block the ball or intercept it in some crazy motion. So we're going to turn it down to 46. Similar thing, 38 returning to their interceptions. Same rationale. The interceptions were turned up by EA, so turning this all the way down to 38 helps out a ton. Pass coverage, I feel like, is good in this game for the CPU, so we're going to leave that at 50. Tackling, similar thing there. Field goal power, we turned down to 44. We might turn this down some more going into the future just because I've seen some field goal kickers kick like 50-plus yard field goals consistently, and I'm just like, there's no way. So 44 looks to be okay for now, but we may turn it down in the future. Field goal accuracy is going to be a 42. Pump power at 60. Again, for that building in a little bit extra yardage just sneakily throughout the game. And then putt accuracy at 50. And then kickoff power at 52, again, to build in that distance so you're not getting those, starting on the 10-yard line when you're receiving the kickoff and stuff like that. So after this, you're going to hit R3 and you're going to save. I saved mine as V1. You'll just go in to save this and it'll save it. And you'll be able to upload these into your Dynasty each and every time you start a new run. And also, don't forget, you will have to save both the CPU settings and your own settings this season. It's a little bit of a change from last year where you can just save once and would do both. So save both your player skill and your CPU settings before going to your Dynasty. And before you leave your gameplay settings, go ahead and go down to the game options below the special team settings. And you're going to set your injuries to 45. I believe this is up from 40, which is default. This is just going to give you a little bit more injuries in the game. You're going to see a little bit more cramps and stuff, and the players won't be out for a long time. I personally like that. If you don't enjoy it, turn it back down to the default. It should be fine for you there. Fatigue, we have at 60. I want more of these players coming in and out and changing spots. You just see that more in real life, and that's kind of what we're trying to implement there. And the minimum player speed threshold is going to be 15. We had this at 15 to give a bigger disparity between the fastest players and the slowest players, because if you have it any higher, say 50, then you're going to have the slowest players who might have a speed of 42. Their base speed is going to be 50, so they're going to be running faster than they really should. So turning this down to 15 will give you that bigger disparity that most people enjoy, and it's not going to have those, linemen chase you down the field. Precipitation catch chance scale is going to be at 48. Same thing with pass accuracy. It affects it pretty significantly, so just turning this down slightly should help you a little bit. And then pass strength at 45, and then broken tackle at 48 as well. Kicking accuracy at 45. And then kicking strength at 50, which is base, and then movement penalty is going to be at 48. Decreasing those slightly should decrease some of the things that you see where it just gets kind of annoying in the rain, especially since right now there's a ton of rain games that you should see this play a little bit better than what you do on your base. And then penalties for the last one here is going to be offside at 60, false start at 85, holding at 70, face mask at 45, and then DPI at 60. The rest of this we're going to turn on. Some people have intentional grounding turned off. Personally, I like having it on just because it makes you play just a hair different than when you be if you had it off. And then legal block in the back at 40, and then roughing the passer at 45. We changed these pretty significantly, but honestly, in the game, EA has never really got penalties to a point where it happens too frequently. So turning these up to 85 and 70 for holding and stuff, you'll rarely see these. I think 70 does give you more. It's definitely noticeable, but in real life, you have a ton of guys get called for holding throughout the game. So it's more realistic to see it more often than when you never see it on the base 50. And then when you come into your Dynasty, go ahead and hit triangle and it'll import the most recent save. So if you have a couple ones, you'll have to go and save whichever one you want to use most recently, and it'll upload those. I already had mine uploaded, so it didn't change anything for me. And then for the Dynasty League settings, these are some things you'll see at the beginning when you set your Dynasty up. If you're not, you're just going to go straight into the Dynasty Central and then hit League settings, and it'll load you in right there. You're going to hit Heisman on your skill level. I have my Coach XP speed setting to slower. I feel like slowest is just way too slow, and then normal is just way too fast. So slower for me. Injuries on. Manual progression XP penalty is going to be 0 for me, just because I don't feel like putting that in really benefits me, but I also don't specifically go for overalls. There was some discussion at the launch with Bordeaux using all of his XP just to upgrade players, and he was having players, be at 90 overall year 3. I personally don't do that. I like to go into the badges and upgrade some of those. So if you do that realistically and get those badges, then you'll see less overall boom and more of an even overall for your players. Similar to 12 minutes, play clock time or acceleration is 16 seconds. And this is where we're going to get into wear and tear. So we're going to have wear and tear on. For normal tackles, we're going to turn it down to 40. I don't want to penalize the guys too much for just getting hit. You don't want to, you're going to hit a lot during the games. Just penalizing you for just doing something that happens in football shouldn't be the thing. Catch, tackle, impact, I'm going to turn that up to a little bit to 45. It's down from 50, which is default. And then hit, stick, impact, I do want this to be higher just because when you do get a big hit, you're going to feel it and you're not going to feel the same the next day. So 65 for there. Cut, stick, impact, a similar rationale. When you get hit and your legs get swiped out from under you and you fall and, on your shoulder or arm and stuff, that's going to hurt you a lot more and stuff like that. And the defender, tackle, advantage, impact. This is when the defender has a good angle on you and they hit you better. This is kind of simulating you being out of position in a way when you get tackled. So again, you're not in your normal position. You're not prepared for it. So you're going to take a little bit more of an impact. We're going to have that at 55. Sack impact, just a hair up at 52. Block impact, I just don't really foresee blocking being a big deal. You're not doing a ton of hitting. The most that would happen would probably be breaking a finger or hurting your arm or something. So we're going to have that 45, a little bit down from 50. Impact block 52, since it is technically a bigger block. Not really sure the differential between an impact block versus a regular block. I'm not sure if that just means like a pancake or something like that. Per timeout recovery, since it's the smallest amount of time, per play recovery is going to be 42. Per timeout recovery is going to be 48. 50 for a quarter, which is base. And then we're halftime recovery, we're going to recover 55. And then week to week, you're going to recover 60. So you're going to see a lot of guys that are going to, probably go out later into the first half, and then they'll come back a little bit more fresh starting that second half up, which is a little bit more realistic unless it's like a game-ending injury. And then in-game healing reserve pool is going to be 50. So if you start out at 80, you drop to 30, you'll be able to heal all the way up to 80. But if you go down to 20, you're only going to be able to get up to 70, which is semi-realistic. And then transfer portal settings. There's been a lot of discussion on Reddit, Twitter, on Operational Sports about this. I personally have mine set to 20. I've seen some people do 18. 22 is kind of what you would do if you want like realistic numbers in the transfer portal per 85 players per roster. Since real life rosters are a little bit higher, you'll see technically more people in it. But if you look at like the averages per player, it's like 0.3 per player on a roster that transfer into the transfer portal, which at 22. I like 20. It's a good number. And then turning your user player transfer chance down to 40 gets rid of that, like a playing time player will have A+ and he's thrown for 5,000 yards and transfers anyways. That rationale is gone. Although that player probably would transfer in real life, because if you're at a small school and your star quarterback throws for 5,000 yards and he has a year of eligibility, he's going to go get a bag from Ohio State. But since that rationale is kind of weird and wonky, turning this down to 40 should help some of that. It's not going to get rid of it completely just because that's how the game is coded, but it's going to turn it down a little bit and you shouldn't see it as egregious. And then CPU player transfer chance 50 down from 55. And then the next thing, and I think the last thing I want to do, is head over to auto subs here and go ahead and jump into that in your team settings. And this is where you're going to kind of change how frequently your guys sub in and out. For quarterbacks, I have it on grinded out. I think that's a default for the game. And you're going to have your sub out frequency on 0 and your sub in going to be on 1. So you'll be able to, so the benefit of this is that they're going to stay in longer. You're not going to sub out as much. The only other one I really change here is going to be halfbacks. I have that up to 75 sub out and then 82 sub in. I just like this keep fresh wear and tear strategy because I like to see more of my running backs in the game more frequently. I like to have my running back 2 and, running back 3 have about 40 to 35% of the carries, where my main running back's getting that, that other portion of that. And then the rest of these are going to be at normal for now. I may change wide receivers a little bit. I just haven't really kept up with how much they're subbing in and kind of the stats around them. And then for defensive ends and linebackers, that's going to be pretty normal. Cornerbacks also, I may try to adjust this a little bit just because in real life, if your cornerback's getting subbed in and out because he's running a ton, that would make more sense. And lastly, the only other thing that we have is the XP sliders. Currently, I don't really have anything for you all, but we're going to be working on that. Hopefully, we're going to have it up for V2 in a couple of weeks. It's just always difficult each year to kind of get these dialed in every time, just because EA likes to tweak with a bunch of stuff and just mess things up, for lack of better words. So we're going to have this on V2 and we'll have this dialed in for better stuff. I have seen some people throw some out there. I'm not sure how those work, or those just specifically for certain types of things and playtime and stuff like that. But for now, we don't have anything, but check back in a couple weeks. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't forget, and it always lets you know when we have a video out if you hit that notification button. So be sure to do that before you go. But again, this is all I got for you guys. I appreciate y'all tuning in. I hope you all enjoyed today's video. Let me know in the comments what you all think of these, how it does in your dynasty. Personally, I've done it, played it on these for about 10 games so far, and they're working well. I've played on variations of this one for, the last week or so, but this current set's on 10 and it's feeling a lot better than some of the other ones I've been using and some of the other people's that I've used here and there. So I appreciate y'all tuning in. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll catch you all in next episode.